Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar, The New Workplace Learning System. I am Todd Overpeck. I'm with Workplace Learning System, or WLS. We are now an independent professional development company that helps other companies that want organizational leadership growth through a positive, injury-free safety culture. Before we get started, as always, we have some housekeeping to do. If you are new to GoToWebinar, we will be in listen-only mode. You're welcome to submit questions to us through the chat box, and we'll answer them as soon as we can. We'll have a little smaller group, so we'll be a little more informal. And if you want to raise your hand to speak, then I will recognize you and unmute your microphone. If you have some kind of technical issue, I will reply to you in the chat function. Our video conference today is being recorded. It will be available for later viewing. After our webinar, please complete our evaluation form and you will get a recording link in return in a separate email. We have a PDF file of the presentation slides that's available for you to download. If you look in the Handouts tab on your GoToWebinar dashboard, you should find it there. So we'll wrap up our housekeeping and get right to it today with our safety pledge. And we like to say the safety pledge before any safety-related webinar or meeting that we do. Here on our title slide, I pledge to personally be involved to create an injury-free workplace. My dedication to creating a safe workplace free of all injuries will be absolute and clear through my actions. So at Workplace Learning, we're dedicated to injury freedom. That's both physical and psychological. And we focus on the workplace, and we believe that if we focus on the workplace, then that will extend to homes and communities and make our world a safer place. So we are excited to have you as part of that, and we want to help you any way that we can to achieve that in your workplaces and your communities. Today, we want to share with you a little more about our recent transition to Workplace Learning System from EnPro Learning System. We want to talk about what that means for our programs and services this year. We really have some exciting things to share. And so we wanted you to hear it from our founder and president, Joe Wheatley. Now, Joe helped establish Workplace Learning System and its predecessor, EnPro Learning System. He leads our consulting group. He's held various leadership positions in manufacturing, engineering, EHS, in all kinds of different industries. He led EnPro Industries safety programs to a world-class level, is one of the only 3-time recipients of America's Safest Company by EHS today. So Joe's been instrumental in developing our cultural development approach, our behavior-based tools, our leadership principles, our safety best practices. Joe's a regular keynote speaker. He's been at National Safety Council, the Manufacturers Alliance, RIMS, SHRM, other trade organizations. He's been on advisory boards for different insurance companies. And he's got a bachelor's in chemical engineering from Florida State, a master's in environmental management from Florida Institute of Technology, and an executive MBA from Queen's University here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll keep a watch. I'll drive the slides for you. We'll watch for any questions, and just talk to us a little bit about the change to Workplace Learning System and what that means for our customers and for the future of safety culture in the workplace.
Todd, thank you for setting things up and getting us started here. And I guess first I'd like to say, if anyone who has a question, don't wait to the end. Just raise your hand. There's a raise hand function, and just ask a question as we're going through versus waiting to the end. So one of the things that EnPro Learning System has been doing for quite some time, Todd, is going this beyond safety mentality, right? Beyond safety, about building a better place to work. And the companies that have been working with us, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's that it's not about going home with all your fingers and toes. You hear that a lot, right, in the safety world. But it's our goal is more than that. It's about creating a better place to work where people feel more fulfilled with coming to work. They have a bigger voice. They actually have a voice and the way work should be. You spend so much time there. So that's really our goal with the work that we do. We do a lot of things for companies, but that is our overall goal. Everyone that's in our company, that's what we're trying to do, build a better place to work. So Todd, if you can go to the next slide. So workplace learning, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history, how we got to where we're at right now, but you know, we're the sweet spot for the work that we do has to do with safety culture development. That's the work that we really we feel brings value to any organization, right? That for those of you on the call, it's probably not a big surprise that most of the injuries is not because of lack of rules or procedures or even training or enforcement, that it's driven by conscious and unconscious choices all related to culture. And that's the work that we spend a lot of our time. Now, another piece of it is it's hard to develop a culture unless the leadership has a real understanding what the objective is. So, for example, we ask leaders all the time, do you think an injury-free workplace is achievable? And you'd be surprised how many of them say, no, not actually. Not purely injury-free, no. Well, it's hard to achieve that goal if you don't actually have a belief in it. And that's where we spend a lot of time with organizational leadership to investigate that. We can't force someone to think differently, but we can investigate it. And so some of the other areas that we spend a lot of time is this teamwork, safety action teams. For those that we work with, safety action teams is the way that we create a better workplace. And so we'll see that, and that the other piece is profitability. We don't look at safety and work or profitability. We look at safe work, right? Being profitable the safe way. So we link all those together. Todd, if you can go to the next slide. So I'm going to give you a little bit of our history, and some of you may already know this, but where we started was way back. You know, the gun that won the West, the Colt 45. That's part of our history because it was Colt Industries, which became Coltech, and Coltech had an aerospace and industrial division and merged with Goodrich. At the time was actually BF Goodrich, and then became Goodrich, which had an aerospace, chemical, industrial segments in it. And then the industrial segments spun off and became EnPro Industries. That was in 2002. And then, as Todd mentioned, EnPro has been recognized as one of the leaders within safety, and in a business that was very difficult to go injury-free. What caught people's attention was most of the businesses went injury-free. For businesses that were medium to heavy duty industrial, there's a slide coming up here where I'll talk about that. Don't flip it yet, Todd, but I'll talk about the challenge, but the very, very difficult challenge that the businesses were going injury-free, and we're recognized 3 times as America's safest company. Each time when we were qualified, I think every 4 years you can be recognized for that award, and we were every 4 years. So that was part of EnPro, and then companies started coming to us going, how do you do that? You know, more than benchmarking, how do you really affect change like that? And we had a very distinctive approach approach, tools, and practices that we had utilized with EnPro. And EnPro is like most diversified industrial companies. You know, we have is diverse, and we sell companies, and we brought on new companies, and we brought in companies that had poor safety record and became injury-free within a few years. And companies, well, how do you do that? And so we had companies coming to us. So we had our very first summit in 2012. And so we've been helping companies since 2012 on our approach, tools, and practices, which gets us to now in February 1 of this year. We still support EnPro Industries for their EHS function, but we also support all the customers that we have been supporting and customers that we're continuing to support and new customers, but as an independent company. So to be clear, we're still servicing EnPro and are very tied to EnPro Industries. Like I said, we are their EHS function, but we are an independent company, and we help other companies. And that's what Workplace Learning System is. This is the migration of our heritage and how we came to be where we're at. So go to the next slide. So I covered a lot in that last slide, but I'm gonna backtrack with some of this. So EnPro Industries, diversified industrial, actually some of America's oldest companies are part of EnPro Industries. Fairbanks Morris, which by the way recently got divested from EnPro Industries. But if you think back in the history of EnPro Industries, there's the history. Going back to the Colt farms, to the Holly carburetor, Crucible Steel, some of America's oldest companies well over 100 years old, 130 years old. Garlock is still part of EnPro. Very, very tough environments, not highly automated. For those types of businesses to go injury-free was a difficult task, and that's, as you can see, that's where EnPro Learning System was started, and then now it's become Workplace Learning System. And so things that we didn't fully appreciate at the time in 2012 when we started helping companies is we're an industrial company, or EnPro was an industrial company that bend, twist, grind metal, plastic, industrial stuff. We didn't have food packaging, mining, pharmaceuticals, and not chemical. Well, we had some chemical in our history, but that wasn't really where we played, you know. But since that time, we've taken the same approach, tools, and practices to industries that EnPro wasn't in, like I said, the food packaging, the mining, governments, pharmaceuticals, construction, and have had great success, and which is the reason why we have an expanding client base. And so, so the thing that we know from this is that our approach, tools, and practices work basically in any organization where there's people, because our approach is founded in a people system, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. So go to the next slide, Todd. So I talked about, here's another aspect of something else that we know too, is that our approach, tools, and practices aren't US centric, right? That we can take our approach, tools, and practices and apply them not only in US based companies, but other continents, right? Other culture. The more important thing is other cultures, whether it's South America, Europe, Asia. We had a summit a while back in Asia, actually 2 summits, and our Asia operation is healthy of a safety culture as any that you would see in the U.S. Is such a great culture and unique challenges. And so that's the other piece that we've learned about our approach, tools, and practices. We go to the next slide. So I mentioned we learned a lot through different customers, right? That the food service or smelting or mining, this is just a small snippet of different customers that we service. And some of these we have been working with since 2012. And so we're really grateful and feel privileged to have long-standing customers. Next slide. So what sets our team apart, right? Later I'll talk about how talented of a team that we have and resources that we have, but what really sets us apart is that these practitioners really understand a proven approach, tools, and practices. I just brought you through EnPro Industries history. What helped that happen was this proven approach and the practices that go with it. And all the folks on our team not only have an understanding of it, but have a real life practitioner experience. And so one of the things that we like to distinguish is the difference between practitioner and consultant. The consultant kind of has an academic feel to it, where we like to look at it as a practitioner, someone who's lived it, right? Who understands the challenges with culture and how to move a culture. So go to the next slide. So if I'm going to explain what sets us apart, I have to explain our approach in a little bit, not so much about our tools, a little bit, but there's just not enough time to cover that. But our approach is one of the most recognized cultural change approaches out there, which is the integral theory. For those who are familiar with it, is Ken Wilber, is his life work is about the integral theory, and it talks about how you would move culture. And we simply don't have time to go through the whole approach, but this is a model of his approach, where if you're looking at an organization or collective, whether it's a business or a church or even a military organization, right? That when you're looking at culture, you look at it on an individual basis, which is at the top, or a community or collective basis, which is at the bottom. And that as an individual, you have an interior component, which is the way you feel about something, anything. And then an exterior component, the way you might show it to someone else, right? So an interior and exterior. And then as a community, you have an interior and exterior. And, the way I like to explain it often, because I have an opportunity to explain our approach, is I'm Catholic. So as a Catholic, as an individual, I have an interior worldview, mindset, mental model, whatever word you want to use, about things as a Catholic. And then I could exteriorly show you, like I've just told you on this call, that I am, or by my behavior or actions. And then if you've ever been to Catholic Mass, which is the exterior piece, there's a first reading, second reading. And so there's a very formal approach to it. And then people that are Catholic, interiorly as a culture, you have a set of common beliefs. So I'm using the model to explain something, culture, outside of the safety context. Now let's flip to the next slide, Todd. The next slide is how we applied this cultural model to safety, specifically safety. How do we affect culture? And what we found when we looked at EnPro, and when we looked at companies EnPro bought, and then almost every company that we've worked with, now everyone's on a different journey, so I'd just say everyone, it's not true, but most companies are heavily weighted in that lower right-hand quadrant, the systems piece, metrics, goals, the rules, the procedures, incentive programs. How do you measure and control? And what we found is that that's not, it's lopsided. You need to do work in each one of the 4 quadrants to effectively change culture or move or shift culture. And most companies spend most of the work on training, rules, procedures, that lower right-hand quadrant. Now, there's quite a bit of work on behavior-based safety. So how do you influence what we call habits of excellence? Is that upper right-hand quadrant, but still everything's on the right side, on the control base. But how do you really affect change? Conscious and unconscious change is on the left side of the equation, where there's virtually no work done in this area for safety, and where we feel like we've really brought value to our customers and proven success. And that is on this Safety 360 has been very successful within EnPro Industries, as well as all of our customers, because we're getting real feedback about an individual's behaviors or actions and perceptions. And then we couple it with a practice called Safety My Voice, which I won't be able to get to at all in this call, but we have other webinars that speak to it, but it's a Safety My Voice. And it's really one of the few that allows you to reflect and open a window to how you really feel about safety, and actually possibly move your ethic, your mental model on how you view safety or anything. Then we have other practices in the lower left quadrant, and particularly safety action teams. Our metric in that area is extremely clear, right? The more people that you have involved and engaged in building a better workplace, the better your performance culture will be. And so we have those practices there, but I like to highlight the safety action team process, which is a simple concept, but very, very, very difficult to implement, and it takes a real practitioner to understand it. So that's a little bit about our approach, and all the people on our team understand this approach. They understand these practices. They're certified in these practices. So that's what sets us apart, to create value for an organization. So if you can go to the next slide. This is a little bit about some sequencing. You know, the previous slides talk about our approach and our practices. This talks a little bit about how we implement different practices. And typically in the beginning, we talk about things that are more on the fundamental side of things, right? We make sure that there's a good plan, right? When you want to affect culture, when you're just kind of throwing things out there, maybe you get there, but most of the time you won't get there without a really good plan with the gap analysis is about. You notice that the executive management and leadership training is top of the list for fundamentals, because it's really impossible to affect cultural change if your leaders themselves aren't willing, or maybe have changed themselves, right? First. And that's one of the biggest failures with behavior-based safety is we'll get folks that have some exposure to behavior-based safety and go, gosh, I know what's wrong. I just need to get the people that work here to think differently. And then, but there's more to it. It's the people that work there to think differently, but for myself to think differently. And that's where leadership comes in. So we look at those as the fundamentals. And of course, having the right infrastructure that's supportive of success, which means, metrics and goal setting, incentive programs, things that we call the fundamentals or 101 of safety, like care management. Got to have that. I mentioned that there's almost too much work on rules and procedures, but you still have to have some, right? You still have to have the right rules. You have to have the right infrastructure to support cultural change. Data reporting, it's unbelievable how many companies still work off of Excel spreadsheets. It's unbelievable. And there's ways to automate that take the safety engineer out of being, chasing down data versus actually helping change culture. So those are some of the fundamentals that happened in the beginning in safety action teams. And then we start really moving into the culture building practices that you'll hear us talk about a lot. So this is a little bit about, let's call it a timeline of how we would approach implementing with an organization. So if you can switch to the next slide, Todd. So a little bit about our team. We've had some questions from, one of the things I'm really grateful. I mean, at February 1, we became Workplace Learning, and we haven't really had, call it a press release or anything like that. But we've had a lot of companies that have inquired about, why the change, what's going on. Like the good folks that are on the call today, you're interested in it, which is great, that we have a good following, people are interested. So, and one of the questions that people are like, who's part of that team? And so we have team members in the US from West Coast to East Coast, and we have some presence in Europe and Asia, but primarily the US. That's where we have more capability to help with, let's call it boots on the ground. Now, our experience is wide ranging of the type of experience that people have, and you can see that list right there, but that only begins to scratch the itch of the type of experience that we have. And I'm gonna, in the second here, kind of just flip through a couple of the resumes, but I'd urge you to go to the website and kind of go see who's on our team and what they do, and we're still updating it on the website because we transitioned February 1, so we're still got a little bit of work to do, but you get a feel for our team. But if you go to our website, you'll be able to see more. And so let's go to the next slide. So this is an example of one of our senior members, Chris Rockwell. Gosh, he is both safety and real life safety and operational experience, right? So he had the responsibility for EHS at a site level, a multi-site level. Then he had P&L, plant manager experience for a plant, the multiple plants in the US, plants in Europe. So that's just great experience and experience on how to lead those to a zero injury culture as an operational person and as an environmental health and safety professional. Isn't that great experience? So go next to John. I'm not going to go through everyone's, but so John has been with us when we really were beginning to help companies on our approach, tools, and practices, companies, different types of organizations that we had not helped in the past, like the food industry, and he is a true expert in behavior-based safety and has given a number of key talks and big forums about behavior-based safety. Is a true expert in that area and has a number of articles written in that area. So again, real life experience with a full spread of different types of industries. And so we're just, and as an expert in also compliance, environmental health and safety. So he really understands culture right on to compliance. So, so with this, I'm going to just flip through the other slides because I won't be able to give everyone else justice on it, but I have all these folks are really great professionals in their areas. And again, I would urge you to go to the website and look them up And you'll see we have some other folks. This is some of our team having a little bit of fun. But you'll see on our team too that we work with some PhD psychologists, because our work is really related to uh, helping people travel along their own personal journey and culture. So you'll see some of our associates on that as well. So one of our uh, cornerstone practices is our Safety 360 practice. It is absolutely within EnPro and the companies that we work with, it brings so much value to an organization. It's hard to go wrong, actually, when you're getting feedback from your direct reports, your peers, and your manager about whether you would shut down an operation if there was an unsafe condition. Is such valuable information. But it has to be structured in a right way for anyone to develop, right? And if it's not structured in a way that is anonymous, that the person facilitating it understands how to pack, how to create the right infrastructure and environment for someone to receive it, then it's not as useful information, right? By just throwing information at someone doesn't help them develop, but putting it in the right environment, beautiful. And so we have a certification process to help companies serve themselves on the Safety 360. And you can see some of the bullets here, the trainer session. We have standard content that allows folks that, let's say, aren't as experienced in the 360 process as us to be successful. And so that's what this 360 facilitator certification process is about. So we're excited about that. And I think that's it for me. And then I'm going to hand it over to Todd from here.
Sure, Joe. And thanks for sharing with us. And we're really excited not just about the new Safety 360 program that we have coming, but the things that we're going to be able to do and bring online that expand building your workplace beyond safety. So, but our cornerstone is safety. We teach a lot of our principles about leadership and about quality development through safety, and we still have our safety summit happening. Um, so while I talk about this, if you have any questions, be sure and put those into the question box. We'd love to hear from you. We just want to remind you, we'd love to see you at the Safety Summit here March 10th and 11th. It'll be hosted by Technetics, one of the EnPro division's plants. This plant has not had an injury in gosh forever. So it's really a great example of how a mature safety culture looks, and they love to share it with people. And the employees and the safety action team leaders are the ones who lead the site visit at the summit, and so you learn from them firsthand. And they share with you what they do to keep each other safe. It's a real experience. It's just not just a quick tour, okay? And that's what we want to. We want you to be able to experience our tactics and practice what we practice, so that you can take that back to your company, whether you decided to use workplace learning system or not. You would still have some practical tools that you can take back with you to enhance your safety culture. Um, so you can get more information and register online at workplacelearningsystem.com. And we've got only about 10 spots left. So we've had a great response. And this, if you're on the fence and been thinking about coming to Summit, just jump over the fence and come. We'd love to have you, and we'll help you to get registered. So, um, I'm looking to see if we have any questions, and one that comes up on all the time, Joe, is where do we start? Some companies want to start with safety action teams. Some want to start with behavior-based safety. Some want to start with their corrective actions. What's the best place to start working with WLS on changing your safety culture?
Uh, Great question, Todd. And before I go to that question, I just want to add on to the summit. I was kind of when you're thinking, we do have quite a few coming to the summit, and we never want to put a limit on it, but we have to, right? Because we're bringing people into a live manufacturing organization operation, and once you get over a certain number, it just becomes so intrusive on the operation, and we're 10 spots away from that limit. I don't know, last year we put a cap. I think we allowed a little bit more because they're associated with company, but we have to put a cap, right? Because they're bending, twisting, grinding metal, and this operation, and there's only so many that we can safely bring through at one time because it's meant to be experiential learning and not a classroom session, and beyond benchmarking. And so I just, when you were bringing up the 10 spots left, Todd, I was saying, gosh, I would love for it to be unlimited, but what we've realized is that there's only so many people that you can actually bring into an operation at one time. So anyhow, I just was thinking about that as you brought it up. So the
Right.
question that you brought up about where to start, that is a common question. And because even though I haven't spent a lot of time talking about our approach and all the different practices that we talk about, and even let's say people that go to the summit, right, they'll come back with a lot of great ideas. Gosh, we should do a lot of tactical things, right? Maybe we do the kickoff, maybe we do the pledge, maybe we do this, maybe we, and where I like to maybe advise someone is that there's a lot to take in when you talk about changing culture, but a safe bet, right? Because everyone doesn't want to do something that could be a waste of your time, your operation, or maybe even your customer, if you want to look at them that way, is time. A safe bet is getting feedback from your own people about your leadership. And the Safety 360 is a good one to understand the approach, tools, and practices, and also get real feedback. It's hard to go wrong when you're getting feedback about yourself and your leadership. It's really hard to go wrong. And so that's, if you're looking at a way to get started, because you're trying to move a whole culture, do a Safety 360. And then from the Safety 360, you can figure out maybe I should do a gap, because maybe you're advanced culture, right? You have great performance, but the 360 wouldn't be a step backwards, right? It's still getting feedback about your advanced culture. So you could go, look, I don't need care management. I don't need a gap analysis from here. What I need to work on is maybe safety action teams, or maybe I need to work on safety first, behavior-based safety. Or so that would be my suggestion, Todd. Start with that. It's really hard to go wrong if you start with that step. So
Hmm. Very good.
okay, if we don't have any questions, okay,
Quiet. We have a quiet group today, which is fine. Um,
yeah, okay.
so is there something you'd like to leave them with about what you see for the future workplace learning system here over the next year or so? If you had a
Um,
crystal ball.
I had a crystal ball. Um, well, I'm really excited that we have certain forums like the I don't know if there's any aluminum extruders on the call today, but I'm really excited that a number of industry groups, Todd, are adopting our approach on safety, which you saw the 4 quadrants and the specific types of practices as an industry practice. And to me, that's really exciting. And I think, um, and we're happy to share it, whether we're involved in it or not, right? And so I see kind of helping others figure out how to apply that approach is where workplace learning will come in. And so different than, let's say, the pledge, Todd. You know, we have so many companies out there that use our safety pledge or some amalgamation of it, right? But that's not as important as when companies are purposely trying to apply a approach to affect culture. And that's where I think we'll see a lot of our work, Todd, is helping companies apply. You know, I keep on saying it's our approach, but it's not our approach. It's an approach that we have a lot of experience in, but helping other companies move along. That's where I see workplace learning working. So
Right, and I think we've had some good experience with the aluminum industry, Aluminum Extruders Association, the Structural Builders Association. There's other associations that we're starting to work with, and industries focusing on culture. They're realizing that that's an important component that often gets overlooked, and we're there to fill that need. So, those of you, we want to be able to help you to communicate that. If you'd like for us to talk with any leaders at your companies or your industry groups, we'd love to do that. And Joe would love to expand his speaking circuit. So so yeah, let us know how we can help you to get the message out, um, about how safety culture can really impact the workplace beyond safety, but into your leadership and other things. So okay, one quick check. Now I'm not seeing any other questions. So at this point, I want to wrap it up today. I do want to remind you, of course, about the Safety Summit, but also that we will still continue doing webinars. We're doing webinars on Tuesdays that, in association with EnPro Industries and also other of our clients. And then we'll have some of these Thursday ones come up too that are more geared toward our safety culture system. Some of the new things, like our Safety 360 certification, we'll announce this way when that's ready. So be looking for these kind of special webinars on Thursdays, probably once or twice a month. So Joe, I want to thank you for your time. Thank to everyone out there for coming today. And again, if there's anything we can do to help you to make your workplace safer, please give us a call and let us know. I will leave you with that contact slide here at the end. And again, thank you for coming.